If you say Netanyahu dragged the United States into war with Iran, that dishonest creep Jonathan Greenblatt will call you an anti-Semite. But here's the lead of the New York Times report on how Trump decided to go to war. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel walked through the Oval Office on the morning of February 11th, determined to keep the American president on the path to war. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu came out and literally said, "Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Donald Trump, for giving me my most important wish, my childhood dream of striking Iran yesterday." So this is the reason why I get mad when motherfuckers in my chat too go, "Oh, well, don't you think it's like still, an unsinkable aircraft carrier?" Yeah, we've moved past that point, okay? When new information presents itself, you have to factor that into your new analysis, right? At this point, especially this iteration of the conflict, if you think this is not Israel driving the American state into war, you're a little delusional. I'm sorry. Why does Israel get to do that? Is it because of Jewish hypnosis? No, of course not. A big part of that is the fact that they have a super sophisticated propaganda machine and have been able to exist inside of the American government despite being a foreign entity for 80 plus years as a consequence of being this incredibly important ally in the region, a destabilizing factor in the region. But post Barack Obama, it's very clear that Israel is in the driver's seat. That's it. This is Israel's war. This is not some Pat Buchanan shit. Okay, this is different than Iraq. This is different than all of the other previous wars that America has engaged in. And like I said, it's not because propaganda, also known as Jewish hypnosis. Yeah, like it's not some like organized Jewry or anything like that. It's not that at all. But if you think that Israel is not using Donald Trump like a cum sleeve here, you're delusional. I'm sorry.
They were attacked. And by someone else. Israel attacked them. They hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us. We would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
The U.S. was forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action?
No, let me two things I would say. Number one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could...
This is a good take from Cloud District Enjoyer. Much better than him yelling at me when I say this is Israel's divergence of interest. Cloud District Enjoyer, divergence in interest with Israel reminds me of Syria. Everyone in the Western plus Middle Eastern alliance was interested in removing Assad. True. But Turkey and the U.S. and co. want a stable but subservient Syria. Also true. But Israel wants to tear it apart. Also true. It's the same here. U.S. and the GCC want a subservient and stable Iran that is amenable to U.S. security and financial interests. Israel wants the whole thing torn apart. Initial convergence of interest, then divergence. That is exactly what's going on here. Israel sneaks into the equation with the divergence or with the convergence of interest. Israel says, "Oh, we got the same interest that you do, right? We're Israel. We love you guys." And then slowly but surely, they take over the driver's seat and turn around and go, "Actually, we want something different than you. We want something very different. We're going to sell it to you. We're going to try to make it seem like this was your own decision. We're going to try to put you in front of the moving bus so you have no other way out of the situation." And that's precisely what they're doing in this situation as well. Like they're doing this with Iran right now. Yes, everyone wants to defang Iran. The sovereign Iranian state presents a threat to America because at some point they might decide we don't like what you're doing. America doesn't want that. The GCC doesn't want that, right? But they're perfectly willing to have a defanged Iran with no Hezbollah, with no IRGC presence in like Iraq or Syria. They're totally fine with that. The problem is Israel doesn't want that at all. Israel doesn't want a pliant Iran. Israel wants no Iran.
For the next regime that comes in and replaces the
we would love to see this regime be replaced. And ultimately, as the president has said, he calls... No, but let me finish my answer. As the president has said, he would love for the people of Iran to use this as an opportunity to rise up and remove these leaders. They've been wanting to remove them from a long time. We've seen successive waves of protests. and we've seen them slaughter people.
Yeah, Rubio's still lying, by the way.
But
The
the
Pentagon
objective of this
literally
mission is to make
admitted
sure
that
they
there
don't
was
have these
no
weapons that can
preemptive
threaten us
strike
and our
coming
allies
from
in the
Iran.
region.
Pentagon
That's why
tells
we're doing
Congress
what
no
we're
sign
doing
that
now.
Iran was going to attack
So
the
while we
U.S.
would love to
first.
see a new
We know
regime,
that already,
the
though.
bottom line is, no matter who governs that country a year from now, they're not going to have these ballistic missiles and they're not going to have these drones to threaten us. That's the objective
To
of this
threaten
mission.
us,
is
Israel,
to deny
he
them the
means.
ability
He means
to
Israel.
Tell us what you know, Mr. Secretary, of the administration knows about the strike on a building in southern Iran. The Iranians saying it was a school, reports of large numbers of civilians, including children killed.
Yeah, I've seen those reports. I don't have. I would refer you, not because I'm not trying to answer your question, but I don't want to get it wrong. The Department of War would be investigating that if that was our strike, and I would refer your question to them, and I'll make sure they're aware that you have that question. But we'd like to know.
American missile.
Well, clearly, the United States would not deliberately target a school. Our objectives are missiles, both the ability to manufacture them and the ability to launch them, and the one-way attract drones. That would be our focus, and that's what we would be focused on. We would have no interest and, frankly, no incentive to target civilian infrastructure. The Iranians are, on the other hand, targeting civilian infrastructure. You guys have seen it. I'm sure you've seen it.
We
They're hitting
never
hotels.
target civilian infrastructure. You blew up a school.
Well, it'd be very
Also,
tragic, but I can't
There
speak
is
to
no
the
world where you can
details
get
behind it because I'm-
normal Americans to be like, wow, I can't believe Iran is targeting Israeli civilian infrastructure. That's not happening. We have moved way past that. You can't complain about cluster bombs, and you certainly cannot complain about Iranian targeting inside of Tel Aviv. It just doesn't work that way. To the average person, they're going to be like, what do you mean? There is such a thing as international rule-based order here? There's such a thing as like war crimes? You know, I spent the last 3 years listening to you say that that's actually bullshit. This is the part where AOC is right when she says hypocrisy of this sort is a national security problem, which is that you cannot destroy the rules so flagrantly over and over again at the behest of Israel and then expect people to follow them. It's that simple, especially when it's Israel, by the way. No one gives a fuck about this. You literally killed the head of a sovereign state. What are you talking about? International law. There is no more international law. The only reason why this worked for years and years, the only reason why America and Israel were able to get away with this is because no one was crazy enough to also violate it in the same way on the opposing side. Russia was the first to go out as a state, as a sovereign state, and say, F the rules. I don't give a shit. I'm going in, I'm invading Ukraine militarily, suck my f***ing dick. That was the first big blow. After years and years of American conquest, after years of Israeli annexation, all of a sudden, there was someone on the other side saying, no, in the post-dissolution of the USSR world, we are a major power that is going to also do the same shit that America does with regular frequency. People lost their minds when Russia did it. But then October 7 happened. And when October 7th happened, Israel decided to nuke what remains of all of these security cooperations, international rule-based order, and America was along for the journey every step of the way. America literally didn't even try to fix the propaganda side of things. They didn't even try. They didn't even try to be like, no, we actually do have rules here. We actually do have to do whatever we can to follow the normal rules, follow the normal process here. No, Joe Biden was supposed to be Mr. I will bring back NATO, Mr. I will bring back our alliances, Mr. I will bring back the international rule-based order. And it was a spectacular failure. My point is, if you want other countries to play by the rules, you have to at least show that you are committed to said rules. You can't just violate the rules all the time with the expectation that your foreign adversaries are too afraid to violate them themselves, and therefore only you get to violate them. That's it. It's ridiculous that you think sovereign nation states are not going to fucking sit there and watch America and Israel take a shit on all of the previous rules that were designed to keep the world stable for years and years and years, and then not inevitably also say, all right, well, f it. Especially after they killed their head of state. They killed their head of state. Do you know how many rules that violates? Are you crazy? This is so insane that Russia has not done it. Russia has not done this in Ukraine. Do you understand how insane that is? Like, what are you talking about? I'll step in. Don't worry. Oh, they're trying? I'm sure. But like, let's be real. I'm fairly certain that if Russia really, really wanted to assassinate Zelensky, I'm sure they would try a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Like these are nation states we're talking about. There is a well-established rule that you just don't do this, okay? You just don't do this. You don't use nukes and you don't kill the head of a sovereign state. America did this to Saddam Hussein with a sham trial. They like literally, they put him in trial. They found him criminally guilty. They assassinated him after the fact. The last time this happened was, again, Israel killing the Yemeni head of state. But even then you could say, okay, well, the Ansar Allah movement is actually a militant movement. It's not officially the, head of state or whatever. But as far as I can think, as far as I can remember, I cannot think of another instance, with the exception of, I guess, the USSR in Afghanistan, where a sovereign head of state decided to assassinate another sovereign head of state. These things matter. These things matter a lot. Like Gaddafi doesn't even count because Gaddafi was not a direct targeted strike. It was they set events in motion that led to the assassination of Gaddafi. And America has obviously always utilized covert operations. You can say Allende is another example of this. But as far as a successful assassination of a sovereign nation, a head of a sovereign state is unheard of. It's crazy. I can't think of a contemporary example at all. Last time a head of state was killed by military action by foreign military was 1870 Paraguay versus Brazil. No, I think Afghanistan, the USSR in Afghanistan probably is a more recent example. But again, what the fuck are we talking about? This is crazy. The IRA tried to assassinate Thatcher. Guys, you are comparing covert operations. I'm not saying America doesn't assassinate foreign heads of state. They do it all the time. I'm saying the way in which you do this matters. Sending in paramilitary units or setting events in motion that cause destabilization on the ground that end up with the death of a leader of a foreign state is entirely separate than going in and using bombers to decapitate the head of a state. We didn't even do it to Saddam. Why is this so difficult to comprehend? The only country that does this shit is Israel. And even then, they did it to Yemen, and you can say that it's not technically the head of an official head of a sovereign state in that regard. The IRA comparison doesn't hold here. The IRA was a paramilitary organization. It's not the official standing military of a sovereign state. But should heads of state be acceptable targets? I mean, look, that's a separate conversation. What you're bringing up is an entirely separate conversation. Probably not, though. The answer is probably not, because ultimately the head of a sovereign state is supposed to engage in diplomacy at the end. When you lose the war, you still sign off on the treaty, for example. There is a good rule. There is a reason for why these rules have been around since antiquity. We are changing rules that have been around since antiquity, okay? It's insane. Name one head of state that slaughtered thousands of their own citizens and civilians in a single month since Hitler. Your argument is non-existent and dumb. Benjamin Netanyahu is functionally the head of an apartheid state because there is a one singular state in Israel right now as it stands, both in the West Bank and also in Gaza. And Benjamin Netanyahu has killed far more people. Saddam Hussein has killed far more people. Assad in Syria has also killed a shit ton of people. We're not even doing it for that reason anyway. Stop trying to justify this shit, dumbass. Iran is not Iraq, he says. Yeah, exactly. And we didn't even do this in Iraq. Death count is at 6 soldiers now. There is no justification for what America and Israel did here, okay? There is a reason why we don't do this. Because guess what? When you decapitate the head of a state, especially a religious figure of such importance, it is going to have global reverberations. It is going to cause the state to react in the way that they are. Ironically enough, I think Iran is still relatively restrained in their approach to this. What would America do is the question here. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You can't just destroy every rule in the rule book and then expect other countries to react in a restrained manner. And then people go, oh, well, I don't know. I think Iran is like behaving irrationally here. No, they are behaving far more rationally than many other countries would in this circumstance, and are very deliberate with what they're striking, very deliberate with their expenditure of munitions. They have a longer term goal here in spite of the decapitation strikes that took place. It's very clear. If you want to analyze it normally, this is how you analyze it normally. If you want me to engage in fanfare and engage in like a partisan approach and try to make you feel better about America's idiotic rule breaking here, and idiotic attempts of like destabilizing a massive country in the region, you're not going to get that from me. Yeah, I've been looking back, and the only one I can see where a foreign military intelligence service directly killed a head of state or government was Hafizullah Amin in 1979. All others were either covert support or proxies. This is pretty unprecedented. Yeah, that's why I said in contemporary society, the last time you can go back to in recent history is 1979. It's ridiculous. Like it is so unheard of. Like we're moving past it because like Ayatollah's a bad guy, all this shit, right? But like they're not going to move past it. It's their fucking head of state. You know what I mean? Like, what is the expectation here? That, oh, they're cheating? Why are they striking back? Like, we're so used to just dominating the entire planet that we straight up look at the situation and go, wait a minute. Why are our enemies totally operating outside of the confines of like the rules that we set that we violate all the time? Khamenei had led Iran either as president or supreme leader since 1981. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that any sovereign leader has been killed in a direct military attack by another state since 1979, when the Soviets killed Afghan leader Hafizullah Amin. Yes. Iranian State's TV says Khamenei was killed in the Israeli bombing of his official residence in the opening salvo of the war this morning. He was not in any secure bunker of the kind he was taken to after the start of the last war in June. Mao Zedong Grandma, so your analysis is U.S.-Israel killed the Ayatollah to stir up the Iranian people and Shia Muslims in the region to destabilize the country and region. My analysis is that America and Israel went into this military operation with very different goals in mind. America thought, stupidly, and not even Americans, not even like the generals, whatever, but like Trump believed Israel when Israel said, oh, you can just go in, you know, kill the Ayatollah, you'll be a legend. All of the other previous administrations were too pussy to do it. You're not too pussy. You're actually the man. You got the biggest balls. And the Iranian people are salivating at the prospect of taking over their government. This guy's ruthless. This guy's brutal. Immediately, overnight, the Iranian government is in your hands. Israel basically lied to Trump 100%. And you're seeing that right now with the way that Trump is talking about it, right? You're seeing that with the inconsistency in their approach. We just listened to Marco Rubio, who is a much more competent neocon, who came out and gave this also inconsistent message. He lied and he said, Iran was going to attack us any moment. That's why we had to do this, blah, 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 all this shit. They're lying. And there's plenty of evidence that the state is lying about this. My assumption here is that the Israelis literally told Trump a lie. They said, you will be a legend. This will be easy, in and out. You'll negotiate with whoever you want to put in charge. But Israel had a different ambition in mind. Israel wants to destabilize Iran. Israel wants Iran to not exist. Israel wants to balkanize Iran. Israel wants to turn Iran into Libya, a failed state. Israel does not want any Iran to exist in the region. Israel does not want any sovereignty in Iran to exist in the region, because guess what? Those ballistic missiles will still exist in a sovereign Iran, and those missiles can still strike Israel if they see fit. Yeah, guys, it's so obvious that Israel has a totally separate ambition here than the American government, and is steering the American naval assets to a long-standing potential military occupation of Iran, which will probably collapse the American state later down the line. But that's besides the point. Israel doesn't give a shit because they're suicidal and they're insane. Basically, Israel wants a failed state in Iran. They will try to get that to happen with American military and American service members dying in the process. They'll do anything to get that goal. And it's entirely dependent on how far Trump will go. If Trump is stupid enough to play along with this, it's cooked. It's entirely cooked. If Trump decides things are going poorly and just goes, all right, we're going to commit to boots on the ground, we're You can figure that out by just looking at the strike patterns and the strike targets. Donald Trump literally revealed last night that his plan B and plan C options for who gets to control the Iranian state were assassinated on the first day. It's so unimaginably cooked. It was preempted because Israel was going to attack Iran and then Iran would attack the U.S. Yeah. No, that's Rubio's statement on this is so fucking dumb, dude. He is such a moron. I mean, sure, he doesn't have an easy job here, right? But you can't package this in a way that makes sense. The logic is we knew Israel was going to attack Iran. We knew Iran would retaliate against the U.S. because of it. So instead of stopping Israel from attacking Iran, we attacked Iran first to prevent the retaliation we knew Israel's attack would trigger. Incredible.
The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact,
yeah, they're trying to repackage Israel's preemptive strike as the trigger point, which it is.
Hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment.
I need you to understand why there's so much inconsistency in the messaging, and it is because, and I'm going to keep repeating it over and over again until it's pummeled into your brains. This is Israel's war. I'm not on some Pat Buchanan shit when I say this. This is Israel's war. Israel manipulated Donald Trump. This isn't to say that Donald Trump wouldn't love to kill a bunch of Iranians, okay? Obviously, we have that ambition as well. But the reason why we went in the way that we did is because this is Israel's war, and we were just along for the ride. The Trump administration and the closest people to Donald Trump were stupid enough to literally think, oh yeah, this will be easy. We will just get a pliant Iranian head of state, not realizing that Israel had very different ambitions. It's that simple. Because Donald Trump still wants a W. That's why I'm saying this is like Israel's manipulation. Donald Trump wants a W. Donald Trump thought this would be a feather in his cap. Look at me. I'm so successful. Look at what I did in Venezuela. I'll be able to do it in Iran. And just like George W. Bush is still responsible for everything that Dick Cheney goaded him into doing, Donald Trump is still responsible for everything that Israel goaded him into doing. This is not an abdication of responsibility. I'm just simply telling you why a lot of the messaging coming out of the fucking administration is mind-boggling. Like it's very confusing to you if you try to take things that they're saying at face value and think, oh, well, you know, America did this because we just also wanted to destroy, we wanted to liberate the Iranian people, or America did this because, we wanted to do a regime change. None of that is true. It's the peak of American exceptionalism that Iran or any country apparently has to be pro-Western. Our leaders act like being American makes you de facto supreme ruler of the world. And then they have the audacity to claim that it's actually Iran that wants to take over the world. Exactly. That is American exceptionalism. It's built into the heart and soul of every American, by the way. And that's precisely the reason why when people say stuff like that, many people even in my community go, what's so wrong about that? They don't even understand. They don't understand that foreign nations can have different cultures, different attitudes, different interests, right? Sovereign countries can have sovereignty away from the hands of being like vassalized beings for American ambition, for American capital, just like a area that you can extract natural resources from. Like, this is the problem. It literally comes across as them cheating. In the minds of a lot of Americans, they think, oh, they're cheating. What do you mean they have sovereignty? What do you mean they have different ambitions here? This is Ferdowsi Square in central Tehran. People on the ground say the bombing campaign is beyond anything they have seen and seemingly indiscriminate. Increasingly, Israel and U.S. appear to be following the Gaza playbook, having failed to achieve a quick regime implosion. I told you, literally the first day, that the initial strikes were limited. And even in the limited strikes, obviously, they killed 100 little girls at school, but it was limited in comparison to what they can do. And the reason why it was limited is because Donald Trump still thought, oh, Iranians will rise up. Iranians will rise up, and then they'll give up all their weapons and they'll say, oh my God, Am Israel Chai, I love America. When that didn't happen, what did I tell you? That they're going to slowly start increasing the cruelty to the average Iranian population. Confirm reporting of your predictions. Tucker Carlson was one of the only figures urging Trump not to strike Iran. In 3 Oval Office meetings, he warned that the war would risk American lives, raise energy prices, and destabilize the region. He argued that U.S. was being pulled in by Israel and urged Trump to resist that pressure. Trump said he understood the dangers, but he felt he couldn't stay out of it if Israel attacked. Yeah, we couldn't stay out of it. We had to get in. We had to get in on the fun. Well, you stop Israel then, dumbass. It's kind of stunning to see a major New York Times article clearly vindicating the Mersheimer, Stephen Walt view of U.S. Middle Eastern policy. Edward Wong, the definitive story of how Trump took an almost inevitable path to a new U.S. war in the Middle East. Netanyahu repeatedly urged him to attack Iran with Israel, and no aides voiced opposition. Netanyahu also undermined diplomacy. Regime change became the goal, except regime change is not the goal either.